Say you were playing your favorite mining simulator and you made different buckets, but those buckets were only allowed to hold very specific things, and you couldn't put other things in those buckets. And then you made chests, and those chests could only hold very specific types of buckets. And then you made a bucket for bats and a bucket for bats, but that didn't make sense, so you're like really confused and you don't know how to keep track of everything. Well, this week I'm going to teach you how. Namespaces, types, and classes. When you make a game in Unity, it's made out of two basic parts, the artwork and the code. And all the code is made out of namespaces. And all the namespaces are made out of classes. And all the classes are made out of types. Well, and methods. And other classes. But that's not the point. The point is types. When I say types, I mean types of buckets. And from now on, we're going to be calling buckets variables. C# has 19 types built in. Today, we're going to focus on the 4 that you'll use the most. First up, the bool. Bools are super powerful, but they're very simple. All they can hold is true or false. When you start writing methods, you'll find that you need if this is true, then do this. Bools are super helpful for that. Ints are any whole number from -2 billion to +2 billion. You can't have anything with a decimal in it, only whole numbers. This is great for counting coins, counting lives, anything that has to deal with counting whole numbers. Floats are like ints because they're both numbers, but a float is a fraction of a number. Floats are great, they use very little memory, and you're going to find out that Unity uses floats all over the place. Strings are used for words, simple as that. You have a string of characters from the keyboard that you want to save, bingo, put it in a string. Just remember, you can't do math with a string. Now, it doesn't seem like much of a game, but you take these 4 core building blocks and you combine them in more and more ways, and you can make a whole game. Well, when you combine them, it's called a class. That's a special type. Instead of just only having a bool or an int or a float or a string, a class can have a combination of those. And a class can even have classes in it. So if you make a class called color that's 3 floats, well, now you can just reference color instead of having to write more and more code all the time. Let's see what legwork Unity has already done for us. Now this barely scratches the surface with how many classes are built into Unity. But we have a vector 2. A vector 2 is an x and a y coordinate. Guess what? That's just 2 floats. Has a vector 3. That's just 3 floats. Has a quaternion. That's just 4 floats. Has a box collider. That's actually just 2 vector 2s. So it's got the length and the width of the box and the location of the box. A transform, it's got a bunch of vector 3s in it. It's got a quaternion in it, and it even has a reference to transform in it to see whose parent it is. And how do I know all this? All you got to do in Jetbrains is hit Control-H. It's going to bring up a window on the right-hand side, and you can open up the code that the Unity developers wrote. You can also type in the name of your variable and see what options you have within that variable. Let's make our own class. Let's make an enemy class called Bat. And we need to know if this bat is sleeping or if it's awake. We need to know how much health it has, and we need to know what it says when it dies. So think about it. What variables are we going to need to build this class? In Unity, you go ahead and right-click, create C# script, and let's name it Bat, and open it up in Rider. And right now, we're just going to delete this stuff. We'll talk about this in another video. And right now, don't worry about the syntax. I'll teach you all the syntax as we go along. Just think about what variables we need. So we need a bool. Let's call this is awake. So if it's true, it's awake. If it's false, he's asleep. And let's make an int for health, because we never need fractions of a number for health. Let's just give him 10 health. And for strings, they get tricky to name. I want him to let's call it defeat statement. So when he's defeated, he has a statement. Oh no, you killed me, right? And that's how you start building a class, right? Now let's go back to Unity and we need to make a weapon that's a baseball bat. So let's make a new script, call it bat. It's called bat1. Do I have to memorize bat1? No, we're just gonna delete it and we're gonna make a namespace. A namespace is literally just like having a folder for your scripts. So let's just make a folder. Let's call it enemies. Let's drop that bat in that enemies folder. Let's open this back up in Rider. And we can see a little squiggly line. Just right click it, show actions, and it's gonna go, hey, you need to set up the namespace. Put it in episode1.enemies. Because you're in episode 1 and you're in the enemies folder. So your namespaces should match your folder setup. It's simple as that. That's all a namespace is. It's like having a folder that keeps your script separate and organized. Alright, let's sum this up. A type is just what kind of information that we're going to be dealing with. A variable is how we name that information. A bool is true or false. An int is whole numbers. A float is partial numbers. A string is characters and words. Classes hold all those types, and classes can even hold themselves. And then namespaces hold all the classes. That's it. You're ready. You're ready to start coding. Next episode, let's put some code down.